5 players, 4 days, 3 spot. Who made their case tonight to be on the Knicks' final roster?
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are locked on to the New York Knicks. My name is Gavin Schall, a native New Yorker, credentialed media member that's been covering the Knicks for nearly a decade and the Saturday coast of the Locked On NBA podcast. He is Kris Pusiainen, an NBA reporter for Clutch Points, who is also credentialed and was at MSG tonight having a ball. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving the most detailed insight on your favorite team at least 5 whole days a week. This week, it's going to be 7 days. So be sure to not miss any of those 7 episodes at least, to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The New York Knicks finally lose a game in the 25-26 season. They fall in their 4th preseason game, 120-103 to the Washington Wizards on a night where they did not play Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Ariel Hukporti, Landry Shamet. Kris, you were one twisted
Mitchell Robinson.
From Mitchell Robinson didn't play. You were one twisted ankle away from getting into this game. I know you told me you had a conversation with Josh Hart before the game. I presumed that was about your favorite version of breast milk ice cream, but it also could have been about you getting in the game tonight, just given how many guys were out.
You are not a real person. Yeah, what's up, man? Nice to see you too. Jeez.
I just assume that's what Josh Hart talks about with reporters. Given that dude, that's like 90% of his Twitter. That it makes sense. We were recording very late at night. Hence that intro.
A blazing start.
Yeah, dude.
You said no. Let's start with addressing your first falsehood, which was that I was having a ball at Madison Square Garden. All right. They were technically NBA players. There were technically NBA referees there. There were technically NBA clock operators there. To call that NBA basketball, especially without the end of the 4th quarter, where the Knicks kind of like law of average their way back into only a 20-point deficit. Chris Paul hits huge 3 to cut lead to 42. But like that was bad, man. that was not cool.
Yeah, it was a 45-17 Wizards run after the Knicks cut it to 53-45, which is pretty.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Yeah, and it maybe exposed something in this Knicks bench that was obvious to everyone. It was self-evident from the first few games, but just that there is like a lot of skill and IQ on this Knicks bench. There is not a lot of collective size and athleticism, and especially in the first half when the Knicks were leaning into playing their vets, right? Had Jordan Clarkson out there, had Malcolm Brogdon out there, a lot of minutes, like they were just getting cooked defensively, like back cut after back cut after back cut. It looked like, speaking of Josh Hart, it looked like his low light reel defensively last year, where we're just every second he's staring at the ball and someone's beating him backdoor for a layup or a dunk. How much you want to read into that? I don't know. Like, I don't think this is really indicative in any meaningful way about whether the Knicks bench is going to be awesome or whether they're going to be disappointing. I think what was probably the most relevant thing to come out of tonight is just what I said in the teaser is the continued battle for those final roster spots. So we were discussing pre-show, little inside baseball, how to construct that, and we were saying, all right, well, 3 players for 1 spot, and I was kind of pushing back and saying, well, it's kind of 5 players for, like you noted, 3 spots, because Tyler Kolek could get traded. Pacôme Dadiet is obviously the name that's being discussed as someone who could potentially get traded. And if neither of them are traded, then the Knicks have to decide by Saturday which vet they want to keep between Landry Shamet, Malcolm Brogdon, and Garrison Matthews. So, buddy, I mean, this is your area. Intel gathering. Also, just like feel free to obviously incorporate anything you saw on the court tonight, what you heard in your extensive questioning of Mike Brown on Pacome Dadiet. What's your feel for this? Just because, I mean, maybe if something happens, we'll have you on for an emergency one, but tentatively this last time, I'm going to have you on this week. So I want to know, even though we're beginning of the week, 5 days out, like where you're at on that final roster spot and what's most likely to happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like you said, it's tough with so many days left, because here's like a use case for you where this is all a moot point, is like, say someone unfortunately suffers an injury. that is on one of those non-guaranteed deals. All of a sudden, 5 players, 4 days, 3 spots turns into 4 players, 4 days, 3 spots.
Yeah.
And 3 of those players are on non-guaranteed deals. So it's
Mhm.
like, okay, just cut Matthews or whoever it is. You know what I mean? Like whoever it is that got hurt, you can cut them for no penalty, which sucks, right? Like we just saw the Indiana Pacers sign DeLon Wright. Oh, how cool. And then he gets injured and they're like, hey, campaign, welcome to Indiana. And it's, you know, at some point they're going to run out of former Nick point guards. Like they might, you know, they talk about us getting in the game. They might reach out to you, Gavin, to get out to Indiana and be the 21st guy on the training camp roster. But like, that's the business. That's the cold side of the biz right now. And especially in the second apron world where teams are more incentivized than ever to be indiscriminately cold with their decisions. You know, all of a sudden we've got like NBA hard knocks going on at the end of training camp across the league. I think the Knicks, especially with how good the team is, the fact that they made a coaching change, the fact that everyone kind of knows, Thibodeau or not, a contending team is going to prefer veterans, the fact that people, if they didn't know when it happened, are kind of realizing, hey, they drafted 4 rookies last year because they couldn't afford to do anything else. And the real like smoking gun there is Pacome Dadiet accepting less than the typical rookie scale deal for the 25th overall draft selection. Basically implying to the average observer that the Knicks were fine, giving him a draft pedigree that he may not have gotten from any other team. You can never undo someone being a first round pick. No matter what they do in the league, no matter what they do in their first game, their first minute, their first season, you can never take away that first round pick label, right? And it's like, there's not a lot to that, but there's something to that. And Pacome Dadiet was preparing to be the 31st or 32nd pick in the draft, going 25th and making the same amount of money you would have in the second round or more sounds pretty good. And so getting to go to New York, getting to learn from a lot of guys like Anunoby and Bridges, right? Like there's a whole lot of stuff there. Now all of this kind of goes out the window potentially because it's time to make a decision. It's time to clear a roster spot or not, or you know what I mean? So what it seems to me, and the reason I talk about all this stuff with regard to leverage is I don't know that the Knicks have a lot here. I think Tyler Kolek is someone who some team out there at the start of the offseason or during last year, probably not, but again, like right at the start of this offseason or right before summer league, maybe some team may have given up like a second round pick and a protected second round pick. Something, you know, one of those like silly, like protected 55
kind of deal that Brock Aller just salivates over.
And some team probably may have, like, you know, not probably, but could have been willing to give that up for Kolek. Now it's like, why, from a business perspective, would you not just dare the Knicks to cut someone? Like, why would you not just dare the Knicks to cut someone? Or, which is what I think is happening is as well, pretty much, is teams are saying, yeah, you can unload Tyler Kolek's salary onto our woeful little cap sheet. We'll just take a second round pick from you as the cost of business there. And all of a sudden, a player has negative of the value that they may have heading into the offseason. And then the question that I think is just as important to ask as that is to note is, if you're talking about having Malcolm Brogdon on your team, who's someone who, when healthy, which is a question, when healthy, can shoot the ball, can play make, can run a second unit, is that not worth a second round pick to turn a 24-year-old guard that can't really dribble drive in a playoff setting, that isn't a reliable off-ball player because of a lack of elite shooting, which is a high bar to clear, but also when you're on a contending team as a sophomore, this is kind of unfortunately how it goes, is you either,
especially at 24, as you noted, right? Like it's not the same conversation as Pacome, who's 20, and like presumably there's just a lot more room for growth in a lot of areas there.
And so you're almost tempted to keep him on the books. Or, you know, Mike Brown after the game today brought up Westchester unsolicited as a potential option for Pacome Dadiet. So when you look at that, and you know, we can get into this after the break, but like The Knicks have options here, but none of them are super appealing. None of them are going to jump off the page as amazing. Some fans out there, whether you're a super fan of Garrison Matthews or you're a super fan of Pacôme Dadiet, like someone out there is going to get hurt because of this deadline.
Yeah, I will definitely be one of them, no matter what happens. Because you fall in love with these kids, right? Like basketball love. Like you just want them to succeed in your team's uniform. The worst case scenario here is one of them goes on to be a real impact player on another team. I mean, not actually. I'd be rooting for them if they went anywhere else, but like that would just be a knife to the gut. But we're going to talk more about the roster crunch and hear about just a very promising night. Like Tyler Kolek made a strong case. Pacome Dadiet showed some flashes, had some struggles. You asked Mike Brown an excellent question on him. I want to hear a little bit more about that. We're going to get into it all after the break right here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put up organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Monarch is such a key asset in terms of maximizing your investments, increasing your savings rate. And I think this is my favorite part because I'm someone who feels just a ton of anxiety around organizing my finances, especially someone who's getting like married in the next year. Like that adds like a layer of stress and a layer of communication that needs to be there. Monarch Money lets you easily review your finances with your partner and or your financial advisor. And it just gives you that clear view of your financial health week to week and long-term that is so essential for peace of mind. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. And we also want to tell you about our title sponsor today, our good friends over at Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats, hear this, Kris, complaining about being there tonight, being in the arena for those opening games. I know that they're not talking about the preseason. They're talking about the regular season, but let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated, but all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I recently used Game Time to watch the Phoenix Mercury against the New York Liberty in Game 1 of the WNBA playoffs. I was across the street at a bar watching some NFL games, and I just happened to look on Game Time and said, oh, tickets for the fourth quarter and overtime are only $4. I'm going to jump in. I had great seats and minutes. I got to watch some just elite WNBA basketball. It was a blast. And their zone deals, if you want to buy before the game, are an absolute game changer. You can pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NBA tickets, maybe not in New York, but certainly here in Phoenix, for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, what's up? We are back here on Locked On Knicks. Gavin, Schall, Kris, Pusiainen breaking it down for you late night, talking final roster spot for the New York Knicks. I'll give my TLDR on my just broad thoughts on this. Because you and I already went over it in depth on a separate episode about 2 weeks ago. Kris, people can go back and check that one out. I would not trade Pacome Dadiet. And I know nights like this where we can talk about it more as we go. He did not have a particularly good showing, 2 of 7 from the field. Pretty much all of his shots came from 3. I'm a little discouraged at this point that we haven't seen more off the dribble from him after in 2 summer league games. He showed some real flashes of that and just like kind of an actualized skill set as an on-ball player. The long-term like picture of what he could be to me doesn't necessitate that he excels at that, right? Like you were looking at a 6'8", fairly athletic, sweet shooting wing who should be able to defend. His defense tonight, both off the ball and on the ball, was not anything to write home about. He showed some real flashes last year. Like he still has to embrace his physicality. As Mike Brown told you, he has to embrace the fact that like he's crazy big with a crazy wingspan. He's 20 years old. I think you ultimately bet on him figuring that out. versus Tyler Kolek, who, as we noted, is just a brilliant passer of the basketball. For my money, one of the better ones in the NBA from day one. Had a great game tonight, right? 20 points in 23 minutes, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. We'll get into it. He was sick, but just limited growth potential. And I think what we both keep coming back to here is there's no role for him on this team this year. And as we keep saying, like, it not that it's a 1-year window for the New York Knicks to win a championship, but I don't really see the time in the near future where Tyler Kolek is playing a significant role in this team. Maybe you could argue to as soon as next year if they decide to get off Deuce McBride's contract a year early and be proactive with that and try to get some picks back. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's around the corner. The point is, like, there's not a big role for him on this team, especially in a world where you trade Pacome and then he's behind Malcolm Brogdon. He's behind Jordan Clarkson. We can debate the value of those two. Brogdon's had a little bit of an up and down preseason. I thought he showed a little bit more juice on the ball today. I think at the end of the day, you owe it to someone like Jalen Brunson, who took substantially less salary to win a championship, who you talked about, like, his only thing is winning a championship to maximize the odds on a year-to-year basis. To me, it is just a little too drastic to trade a 6'8" wing with potential on a team that doesn't really have a lot of that on the roster.
Yeah. I would say you really just have to ask how much it actually matters to optimize the 12th and on roster spots.
But wait, is this the 12th? This to me, like, is your 9th and 10th guy, right? With between, like, or your 9th guy, I guess. Like, if it's only one between Shamet, Brogdon.
I'm talking about Daddier, Kolek.
Okay. Oh,
like,
I hear you. Yeah. But those are more long-term. I guess my case is, like, Daddier is not about this year. It's about future seasons.
Right. But the team's whole ethos right now is about these next 3 years.
For sure.
What are the odds that Pacome Dadiet is a player who is on the floor in a playoff series that is at or above replacement level in the next 3 years is not the question. It's how soon will it be? Mm-hmm. How much of those 3 years is he going to spend as a playable playoff player? Sure. Because if you try and frame it as, oh, he can become a playoff rotation guy 3 years from now, it's like, okay, so the Knicks get 12 games out of that matter. That's just like, and maybe that's a.
But do you think? But it's also like it's relative to what Tyler could give you. Do you see Tyler being a playoff guy this year or next year?
Relative to what Brogdon and Shamet give you.
Well,
like that,
sure. But but I'm saying once you assume you're keeping both of them, then it switches to being between the two of those guys, unless you're arguing to trade both of them and keep Matthews. Also.
No, so maybe trading both is the only way they get anything of significance at this point. Like, I just think Daddier definitely has some potential, but it's not like tantalizing potential. It's just like definite potential. Archetypically, he fits what you have been told you should be excited about.
Yeah.
But, like, what about the reality of the situation? And I think that gets right into what I was talking with Mike Brown about today, which is, you know, I asked him, given that Pacome is just 20, what are some ways that he's impressed him thus far? And where are some spots in which he's challenged him already? Like, he's already, putting up some resistance to his habits or trying to just make very clear that he wants something different or something better, is it right? Like, making clear what better is, I guess, is the way to phrase it. This is what he had to say about Daddier on the pros list. And I wrote about this for Clutch Points. You could just look up my name and Pacome Dadiet, or even forget trying to spell my name. You can just look up Pacome Dadiet.
I'll do you one better. We will link the article in the description of the podcast. So that's to make it very easy for everyone.
Very cool. Yeah, you could just give that a click or Google Pacome Dadiet Clutch Points. Like Mike Brown said, he can run, he can cut, he's big, so he does a good job of finishing. He can shoot. He has the ability to play defense, but he said it like that. He says his ability to play defense. It was not the way he talks about Deuce McBride, which is other teams feel him and they have to really work. They have to work him to get into their action. He makes them work. With Pacome, it was the ability to play defense.
Yeah.
And he said, you have a pretty good young prospect, especially for his age. And then the other side, the other list, he's just got to continue to understand how big he is. He's a big wing, and at times he doesn't utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about playing big, playing big, playing big, and he doesn't utilize it all the time. That's just being young. But like, does that sound like someone who Mike Brown is like chomping at the bit to shoehorn into his rotation?
No. And I think you also look at it relative to, like, not to skip too far ahead here, but the way Kevin McCullough Jr. and Tosan, I'm going to screw up. Yeah. Iwoma, right? Tosan Iwoma look tonight. Like,
yes,
they look like more ready versions of kind of the guy you want Pacome to be. Yeah. I think it's clear that he likes him, but he's not ready, is like a good summary of this. But we'll touch on that. We'll touch on Tyler Kolek in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you just don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I personally love how FanDuel gives me so many different ways to play. I built parlays, I've tried player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football just that much more exciting, especially if you are like me and you're a suffering Giants fan, or you're not like me and you are a suffering New York Jets fan. Justin Fields, if you count sacks, negative pass yards or negative yards on plays where he intended to pass last game, that is not good. It has been 13 years of hell if you're a Giants or a Jets fan. So why not find an outside method to add a little bit more juice to your Sundays? I know your fantasy football team isn't good, so why don't you try FanDuel? Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience just that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
Tosan was good. And Mike Brown made as much clear. Like, Mike Brown made that very clear that he thought Tosan was good. Yeah. You know, I definitely also think, like, when it comes to like Iwoma, I think that he's got that kind of game where it's like jack of all trades, master of none, and he's trying to get good enough at a couple things. I think between the hustle plays, between like, he's got a low release on his jumper, so it's more easily blockable. But like pulling up from the mid range, these little like post bump fade putt shots that he likes, like this is a guy, this is an innings eater. But I think the best way to put it is like, this is not the kind of reliever that you want to bring out of the pen in the playoffs. This is a reliever that you're fine open a bullpen game, or you're fine with them opening a bullpen game. Like, he might have Tosan plug in for Josh in the regular season and then not have him touch the floor in the postseason, even if it means going with an 8-man rotation or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think my only point there is, like, at some point in the year, you're going to need a fourth wing, and the Knicks have loaded up on guards because it was just BPA, right? Like Brogdon and Clarkson and then a big Inyabu were the best they could get with the money they had, and like wings that could actually have like made a legitimate push to be in the 9-man rotation for the Knicks are at such a premium. If you want to call Shamet a wing, you could throw him in there, but in terms of like big physical two-way wings, like there's an outline there with Kevin McCullough Jr. and with Tosan that is not super easy to find at the back end of the roster. And when you were talking about Pacome, it kind of clicked in for me, like just those two. And it's understandable because they're both 24 years old, right? Like, while Pacome is 20, they just have like an innate understanding of how to use their physicality. And like, to your point, like how to like draw a bump, take a bump, still finish. We saw that multiple times from Kevin McCullough Jr. in this game, like late in the fourth quarter. Like,
can I shoehorn one sentence in here, which is that Trey Jemison III is 1 year younger than Jericho Sims.
That's fun.
Small ball 5, but like not actually small ball, just like a traditional 5 that's a little smaller, which is why he was available for a two-way contract. The Knicks were not expecting him to shake loose for a two-way contract. Mike Brown really likes him, awarded him Defensive Player of the Game out in Abu Dhabi for a game in which he played 9 minutes. Mike Brown loves this dude. He's a hustle guy. He's
a great screener.
Had a big block and a big alley-oop jam in like a 45-second stretch at the Garden. This is just like a hustle, dude. This is like another Jericho Sims. Like the Knicks are stocking the margins with these kind of dudes. And I think Trey Jemison III is a great example of how they traded Jericho Sims for DeLon Wright. They got the most that they were going to get out of DeLon Wright once they got to the postseason. And now DeLon Wright goes and signs a training camp deal with another team. And the Knicks, with the two-way deal, just replaced Jericho Sims. Like, this is kind of what I was getting at earlier, where it's like, I do think because there's nothing else in question, a lot is being made of what is in question, which is, I repeat, the 13th spot on the bench. Like, these guys do just kind of churn in and out. And the Knicks at Summer League had plans for all three of their two-way spots. And then all of a sudden, Trey Jemison shakes loose. And now he's got a two-way. Like, things change quick, but also these guys kind of, make their way around.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, you're all good. We'll finish up on this because the Knicks, I'll make a final case for Pacome here. We'll talk it through with all three wings, and then we will.
You want one more Brown quote on him, which was, at times he's a little quiet because he's young and he's unsure at times of what he should be saying or doing. We keep trying to throw him in the fire. It's something I like to do. He definitely has a chance to be a player in this league for a long time. You want to help try and speed that development up. So, saying all the right things, but also took every chance possible to be like, yes, he's long, but it's not functional. He doesn't put it to use. Yes, he understands the game, but he doesn't tell anyone. Yes, a little this and that from Mike Brown on Pac.
So the point you make on Pacome is valid. Like, right? Like what are the odds that he will actually get to a point of being an impact guy in the playoffs over the next couple of seasons? And I hear that, and I immediately, like, just to like be clear to people, I know I have a bias towards like the young, tantalizing dude. And I think most fans think this way about their first round picks, especially ones like Pacome, who clearly are just like good kids. And there is something real there in terms of them like having an NBA body, having some NBA ready skills. I think high IQ guy, always willing to make the extra pass, right? There's an outline of something there. You almost always as a fan, talk yourself into that guy and sell yourself on the idea like that it's definitely going to happen. And I think you're bringing a great perspective here of like, but actually it only happens for those guys maybe 1 out of every 3 times in the way of like being someone who can play rotation minutes on a team with legitimate championship aspirations. These guys like Pacome, who are super raw, who like still like a lot of stuff has to go right for him in terms of development, and just like his mindset has to change. And that is sometimes the trickiest thing with these young guys, and especially European players at times. Maybe that's a stereotype. I'm not sure. Anywho, like I know I am biased in the direction of just it's going to work out. And I said it to you last time you were on and we talked about this. My faith is ultimately in Leon Rose, and that if they trade him, like it's going to hurt in the moment. And I'll be able to move on from it just because like I have that much faith in Leon Rose to ultimately make the right decision. And generally, like you could debate Obi Toppin, though that was obviously to get Dante DiVincenzo, which was a massive success and eventually got you Karl-Anthony Towns. You could debate moving on from Quentin Grimes. Obviously, there were tertiary issues there outside of his play, and he was not playing the same way on the Knicks. He ultimately played on the Sixers. I say all that to say, like, generally the guys the Knicks have chosen to move on from in this regime, like it has been a good decision, or one that makes sense in the context of the direction the team is going. And especially like when you have other guys like Tosan, like Kevin that are flashing, look a little bit more ready, I would totally get that. To me, I'm not a big believer, and we can talk a little bit about his performance tonight to wrap this up, that like it makes like that Tyler Kolek is going to play rotation minutes for this team in the playoffs. So why not take the bet on a younger guy at a position that you just need more? I think is kind of the crux of my argument.
Yeah, I don't think Daddier or Kolek playing playoff minutes is like in anyone's plans.
Well, yeah, my only thing is like you're going to keep one of them. So it's just if we're debating those two, or to your point, maybe you don't, but I think they will.
Are you keep one, and for how long?
Yeah,
like
that's a good question.
And here's kind of what I was talking about earlier too, and I guess just peeling a little bit more of the curtain back as to why I'm thinking what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
I don't know, and I say this as someone who like spent all last summer campaigning for the Knicks to draft Tyler Kolek as high as the late first round. I don't know how many GMs right now, if one looks at him and thinks, I see a role for him on my NBA team.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think this is a situation where, like I was reporting back when the Knicks had Emmanuel Quickly coming off the bench as the second guard after Derrick Rose, where there were over 10 teams that kept calling the Knicks interested. Chicago, Utah, Minnesota, the Clippers. Like, there were teams legitimately very interested. This is not one of those situations. There are not GMs out there that are like, I'm going to buy low and cash out here. This is we are going to bully them into cutting him or trading him for nothing or giving us something to trade him to us. And then if he turns into something, that's cool. But if not, it doesn't matter because we got a free second round pick. Mm-hmm. That's where things are at right now. And I don't have as good of an idea as to how rival executives view Pacome Dadiet. The reporting has been that they are more fond of him.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I don't know how founded in reality that is. Mm-hmm. I think there's a world where he just also doesn't have much value.
And there's been a clear effort by the Knicks to highlight him and showcase him and kind of sell him over these last few games, right?
He started tonight, and Mike Brown said before the game that he was planning on starting Ariel Hukporti too. Mm-hmm. So, that kind of debunks the showcase thing. Like Mike Brown seems to really like Ariel Hukporti.
Yeah.
The Knicks front office, and I've said this since they drafted him, is really high on Ariel Hukporti, particularly his ability in the short roll, what he can grow into that's not getting too far outside of his lane. Mm-hmm. But with all that said, like starting Ariel Hukporti wouldn't have been to showcase him for trade value. So just devil's advocate on that there. With that said, I think the Knicks would not have minded if Pacome Dadiet had averaged 17 points in the preseason on 52% from three on just like a super XJ would probably say like lucky or the hot hand, right? Like a super bonanza of 3-point makes for the preseason, and then be able to just like trade him for 2 second-round picks and be like, hey, we had a late first-round pick that, we needed to do something with, and we got 2 second-round picks. Like, it's not exciting. No one's excited about it, but it's not some huge net loss. That's kind of like the Gerson Rosas thing is like every trade you make, just try and win it by like 2 or 3 or 4%. Mm-hmm. This is not going to be one of those situations for the Knicks, it seems like, because I'm getting the sense that both because of their play on the court and also because of the Knicks' lack of leverage right now, I don't think either Pacome Dadiet or Tyler Kolek have the value that they did at the start of the offseason, mm-hmm. or that Knicks fans, I guess, seem to think they do if people think they could get, say, like a protected first-round pick for Daddier. I don't think that's out there.
Yeah, I don't think that either at this point. And it's where they do get more and like this is we talked about in the episode we did, like there's been a lot of reporting around this. Like they get a lot more financial flexibility from trading Pacome than they do from trading Tyler. That allows them to bring in like an extra vet a lot earlier on versus like doing it just before the playoffs where it gets tricky and like probably the guys you want are no longer available. So it'll be interesting to see what the Knicks value the most. And then there's still a whole lot left to talk about this preseason game. There was a lot of fun stuff from the vets, from the younger guys. Even as the Knicks were getting blown out, I think there were some fun nuggets. I'll do a little episode on that in the morning. Be sure to check out Kris Pusiainen's article. Again, it is linked in the description of this episode, going a little deeper on Pacome, because I think it's a really fun conversation. I know I said it before, but he's like him and Tyler are both going to be guys I root for their entire career. He's really fond of last year's rookie class. I'm excited to see where it goes for both of them. But until next time, he's Kris. Check him out over at Clutch Points. I'm Gavin Schall. We'll talk to you very, very soon right here on Locked On Knicks.